Alright, welcome back to MBK episode part 3. Hope you like it. Cheers. Alright, so from last episode, basically got all the parts cleaned, and I'm just getting everything together now. So, taking out all the chainring bolts. I'm going to put the chainring on the crank arm, and this is pretty straightforward. All you have to do is look for the tab and make sure it sits underneath the crank arm there. Each chainring should have a little tab as an indicator. And then with these biopaste rings, you just want to make sure it's following the same shape. It should match up pretty easy. You can only kind of put them in a certain way. So if it doesn't feel right, doesn't match the curve, just flip it. And then you can see here, same with the inner one as well. Just make sure you match the same curve, and that will help your shifting be a little bit smoother. And yeah, that's it for the chainring. Next, just putting the seat post together. Yeah, not too much to it. Here, just put it on, screw it on, and that's done. The next thing I want to do is clean up these little plastic parts that I didn't put into vapor rust. So just using a detergent, a light detergent and soap mix with water spray, spray them around, clean them, give them a rinse, and just wipe them down with a cloth. And you can see, yeah, these are all ready to go. And then here I'm just putting the bolts or the barrel adjusters on the shifter here. They just kind of slide on like that with the little plastic or the rubber casing on top. They just kind of friction fit. And then here just putting on the barrel adjusters. They come with a little silver bit with a spring, and then a plastic outer. And what you want to do is basically just screw it in there. You got to push down a little bit, make sure it doesn't fling off or fly off, and then yeah, just screw it down. Screw it down all the way. That's what I like to do, because this will help you adjust your brake tension when you go to install the levers. And then here, same with the canties. So yeah, there's a lot of bits for the cantilever brakes. You can see all the different springs, everything. You can just put them back in the way you took them out. But yeah, it should be pretty straightforward. All the bolts are kind of a little bit self-explanatory. If you start putting one together, all the other bolts will start to fit. What I actually did here, I actually put the wrong spring in the wrong way. So I put the left spring in the right, and vice versa. So I ended up switching that out, swapping them again once I started putting the brakes on, and I'll explain that a bit later. But here, yeah, putting all the bolts on the derailleurs, yes, same with the barrel adjuster. And then I realized one thing I haven't cleaned yet was the BB and the headset. So yeah, quick little clean here, a little bit of WD-40 spray, wire brush, clean that up. It was kind of pretty gunked up, so it took a little while. But yeah, I've kind of fast forward it here for you guys, so you don't have to sit through that. But yeah, this is just after I cleaned it, rinsed it off, brushed it down, and then after this you still got to clean it with like a paper towel. If there's still kind of grit and stuff on it, just use a little bit of WD-40 and that should help it. But yeah, this is all done, all pretty good condition, all spun pretty well, not pitted or anything, so that's ready to go. And here I have the frame ready to build, all the parts in here ready to go, bunch of parts, keep all my parts in a box, make it easier. I've got to clean up the saddle and also clean up the wheels as well. So yeah, so I decided to start building the bike first, and then as I go, I'll clean the saddle and wheels. But here, just putting in the bearing for the BB. Just make sure you grease it up both sides, inside and out. And then there's this little plastic protective case that I had to kind of shove in there with my thumb. But yeah, after that it was pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Just make sure you grease up the bearings, grease up the cups. Usually the more grease the better here. You can't really go overboard. Also put some grease on the tapers here because mine was feeling a little bit tight. And then you use this little kind of like pin Y tool to wind it in. And what you want to do is wind it in so it's tight and you're not getting any movement on the spindle, but it still spins freely. And then after you do that, you gotta put the lock ring on here to make sure that bottom bracket shell doesn't move. But yeah, it's a little bit of a you got to play with it here. Make sure you tighten the lock ring. Use the other tool to kind of tighten the BB cup as well, just to make sure you get the right tension on that. It might take a little bit, but once you get it, you'll know. And here, just putting on the fork. So yeah, grease it up again. Grease the bearings up. Slide it through. Yeah, not too much to it. Grease up the top, grease up the bearing on the top as well, drop that in. And then yeah, the way it goes is just the same way you're taking it out, but usually you can tell by which side the flat side hits. If it doesn't feel smooth, just flip the bearing and then yeah, you should be able to work it out. There's only two sides. And then here, basically what I'm doing is I just tighten it up pretty tight, make sure the fork still spins. I'm going to readjust this later when the wheel and the handlebars are on, but for now you just get it spinning pretty smooth again with no play. And yeah, here I started cleaning the inside of the steer as well, and then I'm loading it up with grease so I can put the stem in. And then here, just make sure you grease it up again. Slides in pretty well. If it slides in rough or anything or doesn't fit, you might want to check inside your fork. Make sure it's nice and clean. Sometimes you have to clean it out a bit more thoroughly if it doesn't work. And then here you can see I'm adjusting the headset a little bit, taking a little bit more attention to it, just making sure it's spinning nicely, not too loose and not so tight it's grinding on the bearings. But yeah, just solid so there's no play. And then here, basically what happened was getting the seat post in was a little hard and it was like a little bit scratchy, so I decided to kind of just sand it a little bit with 600 wet and dry, just sand it inside, and then yeah, that worked well for me. And just put the bolt on, make sure you grease up the seat post. You can also grease up the inside of the seat post as well. The inside of the seat tube, and that will help it. But yeah, as long as you get some grease on there, it works. And here, just putting on the canties, a little grease on the boss there, I guess you call it. Just make sure you don't get it inside the hole, because you don't want your canty bolts to unwind. People usually put Loctite in here. My bolts were pretty tight already, so I kind of just left it the way it is. And then here, as I mentioned before, you can see the springs were actually installed the wrong way, but I ended up flipping them so they would work the right way. They should kind of like fling back. Here, just putting on a little bit of grease on the tapers and putting on the cranks. Yeah, I think maybe in the past I probably went a bit overboard with the grease here. So here I'm trying a little bit less with the grease. People say if you put too much grease or if you grease them up, you have a chance of kind of winding the cranks up too tight and have them sliding up on taper. But yeah, if you ever strip cranks, ever tried to take crank arms off, and yeah, you'll know why you kind of grease up the tapers. But yeah, if you're watching and you're on the other side of that, yeah, I just put in a little bit this time, so hopefully it doesn't ruffle your feathers too much. Here, just putting on the rear D, here putting on the front D. So yeah, you can see with these biopaste rings, you just basically got to be careful that the teeth don't hit, because they're more of an oval shape. You can see it worked for part of the ring, but then here it doesn't fit. So you just got to readjust it, lift it up a little bit. Here you can see it just clears the top, like 1 or 2 mil, I think is good. And then that will give you the optimum chain change without having it dropping. Yeah, the next part was cleaning up the wheels. This actually took, yeah, it took ages, but my process for this was basically I just sprayed it down with that little Bunnings pressure spray there, handheld pressure spray, and then I wiped it down with the cloth, use a brush to brush out any of the hard stains and stuff. But yeah, it came out pretty well. Here, just you can see the rust and the quick releases. I'm just going to drop this in the vapor rust. Just drop everything in, and then you got to leave it. I think I left mine for 24 hours. But yeah, I've used the vapor rust in a bunch of my videos, but it's worked out pretty well. So while that's waiting, I'm just cleaning up the seat. Just use that soap spray again, just wiped it down. And then here for the top, little Dove coconut moisturizing cream. I find this works really well on leather for some reason. I've done it on a bunch of saddles already. It doesn't dry it out or anything, and it gives it like a pretty nice clean finish. Here you can see after the vapor rust, there's still some pitted spots that vapor rust doesn't restore the shine. It just gets rid of the rust. But yeah, I think it got rid of a ton of rust, so I'm pretty happy with this. A little bit of pitting there, but yeah, not much you can do about that when bits are kind of chrome plated like that. Yeah, vapor rust doesn't work as well. It works well, just it can't restore chrome, obviously. But yeah, I was happy with this. Clean them up, looking pretty good. And then here, yeah, starting the build or continuing the build. Here, just putting on the saddle on. Yeah, basically I just aligned the saddle so it was horizontal to the top tube, because this top tube is horizontal. And yeah, that was basically it. Things like the saddle, you just adjust when the whole bike's together, so you can kind of see what the best fit is for you. So I didn't worry about it too much here. And then here, just putting the wheels on. Yeah, putting the skewers and the wheels on. Pretty easy, just do them up tight. Make sure they slide all the way into the dropouts. Alright, next thing, if you watch Red Red's mountain bike, you'll get his little annotation on these clamps. So these clamps kind of just clamp into your bars and leave a nasty mark. So I was wondering if there's anything I could do to kind of alleviate this problem. And I decided I'm going to shim it with some beer cans. I end up using 2 layers. Whether or not it helps, I don't know. But I think it's kind of going to be better than nothing. So yeah, you can see basically I just cut it up to size. Just the width, I made the width of that little plastic bit on the shifter, and then I just doubled it up. I just used 2 pieces, and you can see how it sits in there, just on one side basically, where it clamps, where the clamp makes the marks on the handlebar. And then what you got to do is kind of just slide it in. You got to slide it back and forth a little bit just to make sure the shim lines up, and then yeah, just tighten it down. And yeah, it seemed to work pretty well for me. If I ever take them off, I'll let you know. I'll let you know how it goes. But I think, yeah, I just wanted to kind of do that. Here, just putting on the cables. So yeah, putting on cables is pretty straightforward. Basically, you just want to stretch your cables out, stretch them out a little bit, kind of like guitar strings. So when you're riding, you don't have to retension it that much after the first couple of rides. And the other thing I do is I also drop some synthetic chain lube inside the hose, so to make sure it slides pretty nice. And yeah, here just putting on the front brake, putting on the canty brakes. Yeah, I mentioned before I had to kind of like take them off and switch the springs around. You can see this, yeah, what it looks like when it's the right way. See how they kind of like spring back, they pull back. And then for the straddle cable, I had to use kind of just an old brake cable, and you just cut it down. So for this build, it needed 4 brake cables, 1 for the front, 1 for the back, and then 1 for each straddle cable. But yeah, luckily I had a few spares lying around. Yeah, and that's what it looks like after the finish. And then if you want to adjust your brakes, if it's pulling too much to one side, you can use this little Allen key insert to kind of pull the brake back out. And yeah, that was the brakes. Here, just sizing the chain. This is the first time I sized the chain, and I didn't have to take any links out. So yeah, that worked out pretty good for me. Didn't have to break it. Just put the link on. Make sure when you put the link on, it still kind of bends up and down pretty smoothly, kind of like your other links. Make sure it's not sticky. Here, just putting on the pedals. Make sure you grease up your pedals as well, and then put them on accordingly the right way. It's different for each side, but yeah, pretty simple there. And then the last thing, I had to wait for these grips for a little bit, but they came, so I didn't want to rush the video, so I just waited for the grips to come. And here you can just see me putting on some water. I just use water to put them on. I know other people use different things as well, but this has always worked for me. And even just using water, like these Ari grips were pretty tough to put on, so I think once they dry out, they're not going to go anywhere. Yeah, one last thing I want to mention is because I put everything on together before I had the grips, the shifter position on the bars was a little bit off, and I ended up having to undo the brake cables to adjust these shifters, which was a little bit of a pain, but yeah, I got there at the end. So yeah, that was it, and here's the final bike. Alright, this video, hope you liked it. Pretty stoked about how the bike turned out. Turned out really sweet, I reckon. The Geo is super nice, super relaxed. But yeah, handles really well, really solid. And yeah, the friction shifting as well, it's quite nice to kind of switch that up. Yeah, I think that's it. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think, comments. Shout out to anyone who bought stickers and ordered a shirt. The shirts are coming soon. They just have the printers. But yeah, I'm pretty stoked on those ones to see how those turned out. Alright, that's it. Catch you in the next one. Peace.